Food TV star Julia Collin Davison is loved for her ability to be her authentic self on camera. Viewers enjoy watching her cook in her own home, but there's more to her than what you see on screen. Julia Collin Davison was born and raised in Rochester, New York, across Lake Ontario from Toronto, Canada. Rochester has many nicknames, but one of them is the Flour City. The name comes from the fact that Rochester was one of the highest producers of flour in the world during the 19th century. Davison's family still lives in Rochester, and although she now resides in Massachusetts, she makes time to visit her parents often. Of course, she loves to cook at home, and her parents probably love to get a taste of her cooking when she visits. But she also likes to enjoy the local cuisine. One of her favorites is Dinosaur Barbecue, an upstate New York staple famous for its slow-cooked meats. Another favorite chain the TV cook visits when she's back home is India House, a family business hailed as the best Indian cuisine by local publications. It seems that growing up near a wide variety of delicious food influenced Davison's cooking journey. Julia Child was one of the first celebrity chefs and has long since graduated to icon status. Many people remember her distinctive voice with its touch of a transatlantic accent.
Julia Child presents The Chicken Sisters.
Beginning in the early 60s, her popular show The French Chef aired on PBS for over a decade. She was also the author of over a dozen cookbooks. Child once said, "Find something you're passionate about and keep tremendously interested in it." Taking advice from Child, that's exactly what Davison set out to do.
When you flip anything, you just have to have the courage of your convictions.
She was inspired by Child's cooking style and used to make recipes from her cookbooks when she herself was a kid. In an interview with KLCS, Davison talked about being just 6 years old, with her mother sick in bed, recalling, "I was left to my own devices. And my mother said I came up every half an hour with a question like, 'Do we have any cornmeal?' And she said 3 hours later, I came up and handed her a fresh-baked baguette out of Julia Child's book." Davison didn't have the slightest idea what her career plan was when she went to college. She attended the university at Albany, a state university of New York school located about 3.5 hours from where she grew up, close to the Massachusetts border where she lives now. Davison chose to major in philosophy and psychology, and although she didn't pursue a career in those areas after college, some might say her studies came in handy. These days, Davison is both a cook and a television personality who has to connect with an audience. And it's possible that her knowledge of psychology and philosophy helped her understand what audiences are looking for and how to reach them effectively. While she was at the university at Albany, Davison picked up a part-time job. In her Culinary Institute of America alumni biography, Davison shares, "During my time at school, I worked at a little gourmet food market on the weekends. I liked it a lot, and they kept promoting me." Once she graduated, however, she didn't have any specific career trajectory or even a general direction in mind. So she decided that she should learn some sort of skill and see where that led her. Thinking back on her college job, however, Davison realized that cooking was a skill she could hone through further training and schooling. In fact, not only did Davison end up learning a new skill, but she found a lifelong career that would bring her tons of joy. In her talk with KLCS, she said, "This is the best job ever. I'd be dumb to complain for even a minute about it." Once Davison decided that she wanted to seriously explore a career in cooking, she applied to the Culinary Institute of America, or CIA. Conveniently, CIA has a campus in Hyde Park, New York, about 4.5 hours from where she grew up. The CIA is known to be one of the world's best culinary schools and has locations not only in New York, but also in California, Texas, and Singapore.
It is uniquely positioned to influence industry and at the same time to train future culinarians who may go into this field.
With successful alumni across many fields within the culinary arts, it was the right place to help Davison set out on a career as a chef. While reflecting on her time at CIA, Davison shared, "I really hit my stride when I got to the Hyde Park, New York campus. I'd finally found my people. I thought, wow, this is not school. It was hard, but it was also fun and it felt right." After graduating from the CIA, Davison began working for a catering company called Greystone. There, she likely assisted with food preparation for big events like weddings and conferences. After that, she found work at wineries, exploring any path that was open to her at the time. Davison traveled the country in pursuit of opportunity, working in the Berkshires, San Francisco, and Napa Valley. collecting knowledge and experience in different cuisines that would eventually lead to her next and final job at America's Test Kitchen, where she's been working since 1999. Before America's Test Kitchen was a TV show, it was part of a magazine called Cooks Illustrated, which is where Davison was hired in 1999. She told Rochester's Democratic and Chronicle that she was, quote, lowest person on the totem pole. A close friend from the CIA had previously been a test cook at Cooks Illustrated, part of a team of cooks that tests recipes.
I said, man, I love your job. If you ever give it up, let me know.
When that day came, her friend called, and Davison stepped right into the role of test cook. As the newest employee, her job consisted of washing dishes, shopping for ingredients, and helping prep those ingredients for the cooks who were doing the actual recipe testing. After a little over a year at the company, America's Test Kitchen became a TV show.
And everyone who worked there was on the show. It was just, oh, you work here, you're on the show. I mean, it was that small of a staff.
That means that Davison was, in fact, part of the America's Test Kitchen team from the very beginning, although not as a host, but as a test cook. Davison finally achieved the goal of most television personalities, a show with her name in the title. Julia at Home began airing in 2021, straight from, you guessed it, her home, where she turned her family's kitchen into a film set. Davison says it takes one day to film an episode from beginning to end. To make it all happen, she has 3 helpers: her husband, Ian, who is also a chef, her young daughter, and her best friend. 2 additional helpers, her dogs Ziggy and Hazel, are on standby to clean up scraps from the floor. Of course, in addition to the Davison clan, a small film crew is crammed into the kitchen to record the action. When discussing the process of making the show in an interview for the America's Test Kitchen website, Davison shared, "I do miss the camaraderie of having other cooks on camera with me, but luckily, the Julia at Home film crew is a fun bunch. They keep the atmosphere light and humorous." Yes, she works at home, but Davison loves to travel, and her career has taken her to many new places. She particularly loves to scope out new U.S. restaurants and try different varieties of regional cuisine. When she finds something that impresses her, she posts it to her Instagram. But Davison doesn't post the usual cheesy posed pictures. She's all about the experience, and her images are less aesthetically curated and more documentary. If you scroll through her feed, you'll see plenty of meals she's eaten, and interesting sights like a champagne vending machine she came across in Fort Myers.
It was a swanky hotel, but I was thinking I just want one of these in my entryway.
When the cameras are off, people probably expect Davison to cook fancy meals for her family, but she keeps things fairly simple. One of her favorite meals is roast chicken, which she makes once a week.
Now, I developed this recipe called pollo a la maton, or chicken under a brick, nearly 15 years ago, and I like it because the skin gets super crisp.
Of course, she's a test cook at heart, so she's always tweaking the recipe to make it better. In her interview with the America's Test Kitchen website, she shared, "The older I get, the simpler I like the food. I like to taste the actual ingredients. I love anything roasted. And I'm even liking steamed vegetables. You get to taste the essence of the vegetable." One of the things she loves to make is breakfast hash, using the leftovers in her refrigerator.
Hash? Isn't that illegal?
She chops everything up, throws an egg on top, and smothers it in hot sauce. In fact, Davison says breakfast is her favorite meal of the day, and her quickly thrown-together hash is her go-to. One of the missions of both America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Country is to inspire and empower people to cook at home. Davison has taken that to heart and embodies that idea in her own show, where she shares tips and tricks for grocery shopping and meal prep. She also recommends kitchen equipment and accessories and advises people on planning their weekly meals. She even encourages people to use leftovers for a follow-up meal the next day instead of ordering out.
I really care that people cook at home because I'm a firm believer that if you learn to cook at home, your life will be better, period.
Davison is also passionate about including children in cooking. She believes that teaching kids how to cook improves their lives. She's seen this firsthand in her daughter. America's Test Kitchen and Cook's Country have published plenty of cookbooks, and almost all of them feature Davison's recipes. Her face appears on many of the covers, particularly America's Test Kitchen series of books for every season that the show has aired. Davison also came out with a cookbook written with her America's Test Kitchen co-star, Bridget Lancaster, called Cooking at Home with Bridget and Julia. The book contains 150 easy-to-follow recipes geared towards feeding family and friends. Out of the 23-plus books in which her recipes have appeared, 3 of them were on the New York Times bestseller list, which makes Davison a triple threat, a success in the culinary, television, and literary worlds.